ของข้าแต่เองก็ต้องแลกลานด้วย
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're taking a look at 10 of the worst characters you could ever try to compete with in fighting games.
Okay, you can practice on me.
Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Helena, Dead or Alive series.
Get ready, fight!
Now, Helena can certainly hold her own when placed in the right hands. After all, she is known within the DOA community as the mix-up queen, with her stance changes and how she can extend strings to a ridiculous degree. However, the reason why she is often considered the weakest fighter in the franchise is simply because of her damage output. She inflicts such a comically small amount of damage that memorizing those absurdly extensive strings is pretty much a requirement to match speedy characters like Ione or powerhouses like Bayman or Bass. In other words, Helena just features the weakest kit out of the entire cast, and you just have to go to too great of a length to bring up to speed competitively. Dan Hibiki, Street Fighter series. In all honesty, we do like Dan. He is perhaps the joke character to end all joke characters, as he was made specifically to mock SNK and their roster for Art of Fighting. Really, Capcom and SNK did not like each other in the 90s, and there was a lot of parodying each other's work going on back then. But when looking at him on a competitive level, Dan is the worst character you can choose out of the entire Street Fighter roster. Not only is his damage output just pathetic, but all of the moves that he's quote-unquote borrowed from Ryu and Ken are significantly weaker versions. Although, that is if you're playing older Street Fighter games. Dan supposedly got a lot better in later games, but even so, we're sure there are better options for you to compete with regardless of which game you're playing.
No new applicants! Not one! And I did that rag commercial and everything! Was it the time slot? 3 a.m. too late? Should I included some miracle detergent or something?
Akira Yuki, Virtua Fighter series.
Yes.
We pity Akira. We really do. Ever since the franchise's debut in 1994, Akira has been the face of Virtua Fighter, having been on the front cover of nearly every single game. He's become an icon of the fighting game genre, especially considering Virtua Fighter is the granddaddy of 3D fighting games. He's the face of it. However, we cannot ignore just how horrible his kit is. Whereas every fighter on the roster has some basic strings for setups and for button mashers to go ham with, Akira goes against everything the cast can do. He's slow, he's clunky, he has no easy combos to pull off, and it can be tough figuring out which combos can string together. Honestly, shouldn't the mascot be the fighter that beginners can comfortably jump into?
Knockout!
Hercule, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3.
All right, come on.
If you've seen some of the later episodes of Dragon Ball Z, you'll know all too well about how arrogant and stupid Hercule truly is. Well, those who were curious enough to play as him in Tenkaichi 3 found that he plays the same exact way as he acts in the show. Hercule is the worst character you could possibly play, as not only are his attacks slower than most characters, he also has very little to work with in terms of special abilities. Heck, one of his supers does the same amount of damage as a normal punch combo that most of the roster could execute. But if you find yourself on the receiving end of his present bomb, you can kiss an entire health bar goodbye, and maybe some of your dignity too. Crowagunk, Pokken Tournament. Ideally, Crowunk wouldn't stand a chance against most of the Pokken cast. Come on, you really expect this little frog to rival the likes of Darkrai, Charizard, or even Pikachu Libre? It can't even match the power of a freaking Chandelure. That's right, Croagunk is the worst fighter in Pokken Tournament, and the big reason behind that is because of how focused his kit is in speed and debuffs. Yes, he is a character that relies more on speed, and he can cause quite a bit of confusion with his constant buff manipulation. However, that manipulation is always up to RNG, which can make fights very frustrating. It doesn't help that you have to rely on his normal attacks to do any kind of damage, and even then, the damage output is measly. Luck-based specials and weak damage output, yeah, he's like really low tier. Mocap, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance.
Round 1, fight!
Yes, we know that Mocap is supposed to be a joke character, much like Dan in Street Fighter. Even so, horrible toolkits should not ever be excused. We could accept the man in the goofy-looking ping-pong ball suit. The problem is that goofy-looking man has nothing unique going on for him. All of his special moves are taken from other characters, and none of them have much utility other than being a projectile or a launcher. Really, you're much better off actually learning to play as one of the characters that he borrows moves from.
Finish him! Wins.
Fakuram, Tekken series.
ยังจะสู้ต่ออีกเหรอ
When he made his debut in Tekken 7, fans were not at all that impressed with Fakuram. Oh, it's a muscle man and boxers who is wanted by the Thai military. How utterly vanilla. The same sentiment was repeated when he came back for Tekken 8, but can his gameplay match the other King of Iron Fist contestants? Well, he was pretty busted when he first dropped, admittedly, but after a few patches, he quickly became the worst fighter on the roster. It became much harder to pull off certain combos, making him far less aggressive than his edgelord intro made him out to be. And now, Fakuram is back in Tekken 8, and he still sucks.
ข้าจะสังหารเป้าหมายเพื่อความอยู่รอดของลูกเมีย
Nurgle Jr., The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
All I ever wanted was to be loved.
Hard to believe a video game based on Billy and Mandy actually has a tier list of any kind. Indeed, you have your mix of strong and sometimes broken characters like General Scar and Mandy, but if you want to experience mental and emotional pain of another level, Nergal Jr. is, rather appropriately, the weakest, most pathetic character in the whole game. And by the way, we're not counting the NPC characters. Not only does he deal a minuscule amount of damage, Nergal Jr. takes way more damage than any other character in the game. Seriously, when Dracula or Fred Fredburger can take him out in 2 full combos and then some, what sort of edge does Nergal Jr. have over anyone in this game? Donkey, Shrek Super Slam.
Do I need a breath mint? I ain't no criminal. I mean, it's not like I scarfed the Queen's vegetable garden or took a bubble bath in the moat or shed all over the royal sofa. Okay, maybe I did some bad things.
When playing a game like Shrek Super Slam, you know a good majority of people are going to pick Donkey. He's probably the most beloved Shrek character ever, not counting the green lug himself. But what you'll quickly discover is that Donkey is the most abysmal character to compete with in Shrek Super Slam. Absurdly slow movement, horrid damage output, virtually no chance in landing a regular throw to save his life. Honestly, how is it that the noble steed cannot hold a candle to the likes of Humpty Dumpty and Pinocchio? And his super isn't even all that effective either. One use just won't be enough to claim victory because of how weak he is. But he's not as horrible as our final entry. Roll, Marvel vs. Capcom series.
Marvelous!
It is a miracle that Roll managed to appear in 2 whole MVC games because holy crap, she is such an unfathomably bad character. How bad is she? Roll is so bad that she has her own tier named after her across every MVC tier list. Roll is a severely worse version of Mega Man as she borrows the Blue Bomber's hyper combos while dealing tiny amounts of damage. We're talking about as minuscule as Servbot's output, and that's a joke character that is also considered to be among the worst fighters in MVC history. Her own normal attacks and assists will also do very little to give you the edge in a fight. That said, there's absolutely no reason to select her as a part of your team. Consider her to be a living difficulty modifier. Tell us, have you managed to try any of these characters for yourself? I'm not kidding when I said Nurgle Jr. is mental and emotional pain. Beating the campaign as him was a total nightmare. But let us know what you think down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to MojoPlays for more great videos every day.